Hey guys, welcome back to Status Detail, and today we're going to talk all about just new car detailing. I know we kind of just talked about that recently in the G80 M3 video. I'm assuming that video is out by now. If you're seeing this, this is probably coming out after. But this detail is going to be a little bit different. So this is a brand new Porsche GT4, and it's different because this car sat in the port for like 6 months and got super dirty. So this brand new car is like filthy. So we had the dealership barely wash it just to get the top layer of crap off of it. But I want to walk you guys around kind of what it looks like. And then for the most part, I'm going to jump to the very end of the detail and then show you what we did to it and why we did those things to it. I don't want to bore you too much with the middle part of that because I feel like we've been filming so much of that lately. So we're going to show you the state of the car right now in the beginning, and then I'm going to show you the state of the car in the end, what we did and why we did it. So let's jump into it. All right, so it's a little hard to see this, but I'll try and show you more than one wheel. So the barrels of the wheels are very dirty. The car only has 400 miles on it. I think most of this is just crap that was sitting in rain and blowing around, and then it just sat, kind of like how you get dirt on the paint when a car sits outside. I think like the whole wheels are kind of caked in this all the way around, and I think this is more than just 400 miles of driving, so I think part of this is from the port. I feel like you can see it better in the back here. You know, one way or another it's dirty, whether it was from him driving or not, but I feel like some of this is just from sitting outside. For example, the fender liners, let me make that brighter for you. The fender liners are really not that dirty, whereas I think these would be much more dirty if this was like, you know what I mean? They don't match is the point. So some of this has got to just be from sitting, kind of like dust and stuff blowing around. You can see some marks on the wing here. I think a lot of this is some of the stuff that's coming off the delivery wrap. And you know, we've got some dirt down here, which is about right for a car that's been driven recently. I mean, I just drove it. It's dirty, and obviously it's been driven. I think we've established that much here. But when you really see how it's sat at the port is when you look at the door jambs. So when you look at stuff like this, you know, this is never like this on a new car. This is like a door jamb seal. And that's because all the crap in the port just went down basically the drain lines in the doors. And you can just see, let's make this brighter for you. You can just see how dirty that is, how dirty the door jamb is. I mean, a new car door jamb almost never looks like that. If it's just been like, you know, relatively clean, they usually come relatively clean. This looks like it sat outside for a while. So obviously, you know, we have some work here because a car should not be delivered to a customer like this necessarily. It's not really the dealership's fault because this customer told the dealership, like, don't clean my car. He wanted me to clean it. You know, stuff like this is pretty normal. This is just from getting in and out. That's no one's fault. The inside is in very good shape because it was obviously closed and sealed, and you know, there's no reason for the inside to have gotten dirty. So the inside's in great shape. We'll still kind of vacuum and clean and ceramic coat the leather in Alcantara. And you'll see here, you know, the steering wheel and everything here looks really good. I love, by the way, I love this yellow stitching. That yellow stitching inside, so cool. It's over here as well on the shift boot. And then we have these bright yellow seat belts with the on the seat as well. I love that. I'm a big fan of that. So this is a pretty cool spec. It's subtle, but it works. So yeah, definitely some work cut out. A little more of a deep cleaning needed, even though this is a brand new car. Alright guys, so we got the wash done and the car is looking much better now. Don't see any rock chips in the front, even though it's got 400 miles, so the PPF should go good. We'll talk about PPF a little later. These matte satin, I think they're more matte than anything. These matte wheels are looking nice. You can see that stuff cleaned up really good. All the crap that was on there came off. So this is looking much better. These are some seriously good looking wheels. Hopefully you guys can see the barrels there. Again, the barrels in the back are really clean now. Got a little bit of wet coat on the barrels and the wheels to start the coating process. So that's looking nice. I think you can see some water beads in the back. So unfortunately, because the car sat outside so long, you can see a pretty bad water spot here, which we'll, I'm sure, polish out. But that did not come out in the wash, and that's obviously not for me because there's no water spots on the entire car except for basically one spot. And we were washing in the shade on a pretty cool day. So that's from the port, unfortunately, and there's a couple spots like this around the car. There's some weird buildup here that's probably some kind of combination of like fallout and something else, and it's very difficult to show you this, but it's actually in the seam as well. So this is basically going to be hand polished and hand compounded to correct that. Again, this has to be from the port because I've never really seen that on a new car for the most part. This thing sitting for so long is pretty unique. I think you can see it better. I think you can see it better on this side, how it's in the seam. We have some weird drip marks. Again, this looks like hard water. I'm sure there's lots of crap and fallout in the port, so as it rained and the car was outside, you can see this line of crap. So basically this stuff built up, and then we get these real bad, like it's like a hard water deposit. It could be almost like a salt deposit because of seawater evaporating or, you know, mixing with rain. So I don't think there's a whole lot here, but there's definitely in this spot. So again, that's something we got to correct. A new car should not obviously have that in it. And once again, just some crud and stuff that's clearly built up from sitting in that port. And this is the driver's side. So it's got that exact same, like a hard water or salt or some kind of deposit that's clearly coming down just from these like drip rails, where basically it's coming out of the drains from the windows here. It comes down, 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 and then somewhere around here you can see it actually starts leaving marks, probably because the stream slowed down, and when it slows down more it starts to evaporate when it heats up, and then we get these spots. I believe, yeah, see, we've got another one here. I think this is delivery wrap glue, but we'll investigate that later. But these are all things that happen, you know, when you get your car delivered. It's not really anyone's fault. I think had they had more time, they might have caught some of this stuff. But to be honest, I think I see this on most of the cars I see. So this is just, you know, one of the many reasons you might want a detailer to take care of your brand new, very, very expensive car. Alright guys, so this is going to be a detailed walkthrough on a 2021 Porsche GT4. I did I believe a 5-day detail on this car. It was pretty expensive, and we covered a lot of stuff and we did a lot of stuff. So on today's video, I'm just going to walk you guys around the entire car, and I'm going to show you what we did and why we did it. Specifically speaking to some of the PPF things and why we did things a certain way. So let's jump into it. So for starters, you're going to see that all of the seams are tucked basically completely into the car. So, you know, when you look at the fenders here, these fenders are fully tucked. I mean, there is no seam there. And then when you, there's no way for me to show you this easily, but the seam is literally tucked about like a 1/4 inch into the fender, into the backside. So, I mean, it is really, really tucked in there. And then we even tucked these bottom pieces don't really have a seam. They're tucked into the fender itself. You can see here, this is between the door and the fender, and again, there is no seam on that fender. That seam is 100% tucked, and then that continues on the top here. So there are no seams on the fender or the hood. The only seam on this entire panel of a fender, the only seam is the seam that is right here, which I believe we will trim back because I think the way it is cut right now, it might end up wanting to collect dust and things like that. It's pretty seamless, but I think if we trim it back, it'll actually look better. There is obviously a seam around the lights, and then there is a seam here. But again, even on camera, and I'm zoomed in pretty far here, guys, that is really hard to see. He basically cut that seam all the way even to the edge. So, and there's a seam there as well on the bottom and top of that reflector. So I hope you guys can see that. I mean, this is some top tier, serious skill. Like that's hard because everything I am showing you guys, everything is hand cut. This is not stenciled. It's not pre-cut out of a plotter. This is a hand cut, like no joke. This guy is like an artist. Same thing here. So you got to understand this piece around this vent, it's one giant piece, and then he ends up taking a knife and like a surgical knife, and he's like cutting around that vent. So there's PPF on that top part between the hood and the vent, and then there's PPF in the bottom part, and then there's no seam anywhere on that thing. He did that in one full piece, and then that entire piece wraps all the way down to here. I can make this brighter for you. It wraps all the way down here. There is no seam, and again, the only seam you're gonna see is on the very, very bottom here. And dude, look, we are super zoomed in, and it is still very hard to see that, okay? And then you will see stuff like this, and I'm going to show you this because most people won't show you this, and I'm always going to give you guys the real story here. So I believe that right there is, just checking, yeah, so this right here is a little dust speck in the film, and honestly, this also could be a rock chip because the car is 400 miles on it and it was driven here. There's a spot on the hood, which I'll also show you, because I'm not afraid to show you guys this stuff because I'm not like a smoke and mirrors kind of guy. So this one right here, this is in the hood, and this is a rock chip. So that little tiny guy is really, really, really hard to see this in just the paint. But when the film goes on it, it shows it more. So this is a little rock chip that was in the paint before the film goes on. And it's just an unfortunate thing. It's part of the paint protection film experience. If you're getting paint protection film, you have to be on board with the fact that we are putting a giant, large sticker on your car, and that when you do that, you might end up having a couple things in it that might not, that might be in there. And there's a threshold of what is reasonable and what is unreasonable, and that counts as reasonable. So that's just in there. Now, so this spot, and I hope you guys can see this one because it keeps going in and out of focus, but this spot is actually a small bubble in the film. So I actually have the installer coming back today. We're going to make sure this is fixed for delivery. It's either going to disappear on its own because a lot of these bubbles like evaporate all on their own, and sometimes these bubbles like you literally need to rewrap the car to fix it. It just kind of depends. This is a really good shot of it. I'm glad it's in focus. So this one's either going to evaporate on its own because a lot of other ones were in the paint and they evaporated on their own overnight, or like we might have to pop it, or you can actually like pop a needle in there and kind of suck some of the air and liquid out and then push it back down and it works. Whatever the case may be, this one is, within the margin of like a threshold where like, I'm not okay with it, so I want to make sure that gets fixed. Whereas this little rock chip guy over here, I mean, no matter what we do, this little rock chip, that's in there forever just because it's in the paint. All right, I think that sums up the front of the car. Again, just remember too, like around these like headlight washers, he had originally cut this and I asked him to go back and to cut it again. So when you're getting a paint protection install at Status Detail, you're having my eyes on that car to make sure the install is perfect, and I am a insane crazy person. So if you're having me do your car, that means you're having our installer who is very, very good, plus you're getting my quality control to check that to make sure that things are going to be right. And you're going to see as things progress with our paint protection film process and stuff that I assure you and I promise you we will charge more money than most people charge. But our install and our attention to detail on stuff like this, guys, is going to be second to none, and it's going to be the best stuff you'll ever see. All right, so on this mirror, when we started out, it's had the seam, it came all the way to about here. So we ended up cutting it to what you see right now. Now, many of you might go, my God, that's the worst seam I've ever seen. But the reality, guys, is that the seam you see is a manufacturer's molding seam. So this is where the plastic got molded together when they made the car at Porsche. Regardless of whether there is film on the car or not, there is a seam there because that is just where the plastic is molded together on a Porsche mirror. So what we did is I had him cut that PPF seam into the seam of the mold seam. So now you cannot see the paint protection film. You only see the molding seam. Before, the paint protection film was cut to here, and then I had him change it because I thought that was going to be better. I showed it to the customer in real time. He approved it, and we did it. So this is a communication thing that you don't get stuff like that, guys, when you go to a different store. You drop your car off, then you come and pick it up. There's no in between. And then again, I don't know if our installer would typically do it that way. That was 100% my eye catching that and saying, hey, let's change that and do it this way. So again, this is why, you know, when you do paint protection film with us, it might be more money, but you're having a lot more eyes on it, and you're having my eye on it, and that usually is going to end up in what you see here. It's the little things. It's the really, really little things that we're going to catch and make it so it looks like there's no film on your car. I am anti-film for the most part, but you know, when you're going to do it, we might as well do it as good as possible, and it's this little stuff that makes the difference. We wrapped the gas door twice because the first time it wasn't good enough, so we ended up wrapping the gas door a second time, and now you can see there are no seams on the gas door. It is fully tucked behind the door. And also, I'm going to cue some images in because we wrapped the hood twice. The first time we did the hood was not good enough, so we had to rewrap the hood. So we actually wrapped the hood twice and the gas door twice. I'll even show you pictures of us pulling the film off and link that in here just so you guys can see it. Because again, full disclosure, you know, if it wasn't good enough or we don't like it, we do it again. I'm not going to give you guys a car back that looks wrong. If we're doing paint protection film, this stuff is expensive, and we're going to get it right no matter, you know, how many tries it takes. All right, moving on to the rocker. Now, a lot of people would not have done the rocker the way this car was done because it's done fully in one piece. And again, it is fully wrapped, and I don't know how I'm going to show this to you guys, but it is, I'm going to brighten this up for you. It is fully wrapped all the way under, like all the way under the car. I don't know how I'm going to show this. I'm going to try and show you like this. Like if I put my hand under here, like it's all the way to where my finger is. I mean, I'm like underneath the car is where the seam stops. So the doors are wrapped pretty far, and hopefully we can show this here. I think on the driver's side, they're actually not wrapped as far. But on the passenger side, they're wrapped pretty far, and on the driver's side, they're still wrapped pretty far. I'll show you the driver's side as well. It's not a secret. But again, I mean, if you're a human being and you're just walking up to this car and you're getting into it, this is what you see. This is a very high definition, really, really good camera. This is what you're going to see in real life too. You cannot tell there's a seam in that door, guys. I mean, you'd have to look at it real hard. So that's a fully wrapped thing, and this is basically how we wrap the fender, is when you have the door open, you can get in behind it, and that's why the fender, that's why the fenders are wrapped the way they are, because again, you can see this pretty well, I think. They can focus, there it goes, okay. So you can see it, I mean, there's no seam there. It's wrapped all the way behind when the door is open. All right, so this is probably the most unique thing we did on the entire car, and I'm gonna walk you around this one. So, because this is super non-traditional. So we wrapped the back bumper in two pieces, and it's wrapped on, if you can, I mean, I can probably show you the seam, because it's not too hard to see it on camera. So there's a seam where the reflector is going to the right there, like right there, right? So that seam goes all the way around. It follows that, you know, it follows this piece of trim all the way around. That's all one piece. So there's no, most people would cut this, and then there's gonna be like a cut, and then there's no paint protection film, and there's film. But on this car, there's film all the way uncut under the license plate. It's uncut all the way, no seam, nothing, okay? That's not too expensive to do because we obviously wasted all the film that's cut underneath the exhaust and the diffuser. You just end up throwing that out for literally what is a 1/4 inch piece of trim of paint, but we didn't want any seams. Now, the customer said, why don't I do this section? Because it's really common to do this section, because when you look at the way the tire is sticking out, it's like a lot of tire is sticking out. So obviously this area of trim on the car, it's not trim, it's paint, it's obviously gonna get really hammered by rock chips. So he was like, well, I want that done and I want it seamless. But now guys, you have to understand, if we're gonna do that seamless from the top of the bumper to the bottom, we gotta wrap the whole bumper, and then we gotta cut 95% of that film out, because all of this is not gonna get used, and wrapping the full back bumper is kind of silly, but he just wanted that protection over there. So the reality was that would have been like a $600 bumper wrap. This is a complicated bumper to wrap if we're using that much film. So what we ended up doing was we put a piece that we didn't even charge him for because it was so inexpensive. We just added it on top of the original bumper piece. And you can see here, there's two pieces. So there's a seam that's really low visibility, which I'll show you that when you're standing up, you just can't see. We are at eye level. I think you can see I'm in the bumper here. I'm crouched down on the ground looking at this. So from this level, you can see it. Now that's there and it meets the seam, again, on the manufacturing like bodywork line, like that seam. So the seam ends right there. So even like from this close, guys, it is really hard to see that seam. I have to zoom way in, way more than any, that's the equivalent of being like 1 inch away from the bumper in zoom. So the whole point of that is this is an expendable piece and so is the bottom, but if anything's gonna get messed up here a lot, it's gonna be the very bottom of the car, which you'll never see, which by the way has PPF on it. And then this guy, which is probably gonna get beat up as well, but because we put a seam here, it is now replaceable. So he'll never have to feel bad about destroying that piece and going, oh man, I gotta replace the whole bumper. It was like 600 bucks to replace the whole bumper. Now he can go, oh, well, that's beat up. It's like 45 bucks to replace that piece of trim because it's so tiny. No one's in a bad eye at $45 on a $150,000 car. So now, because we put that seam there, he doesn't have to feel guilty about switching out PPF in a really, really, really high wear area. The highest wear area on the entire car is this back part of the bumper. Same thing, if on the bottom, he wants to replace that entire bottom piece, that still wasn't that expensive of a piece. I don't remember 100% what it was. It might have been like $250 or something. Don't quote me on it. I don't know what it was. But the point is, to do this side piece right here, to do this side piece is not expensive. It's probably 50 bucks. So he could redo it every 6 months, every year if you wanted to. It'll look brand new all the time. Now, besides all that PPF stuff, the entire car was polished. There is no PPF on the doors, on the back, like upper fender stuff here, on the roof, on the wing, or on the deck lid, or on the very back of the bumper for the most part. Obviously, I just showed you where the PPF was there. So all of that is normal paint, which means we are maximizing gloss on those areas because you always get more gloss and more reflection and less orange peel when there's no paint protection film. So those areas are just kind of clean paint. Everything, paint protection film included, all of it has dual layer 7-year ceramic on it. The PPF is 10-year manufacturer warranty from Xpel. And then we have ceramic on the wheels and on the glass as well. So everything is protected. Everything is ceramic coated. And just to show you guys, because you might be curious, I actually pulled this cover off. I'm not going to do it right now, but I did pull this cover off. I think I have a picture I can show you. And there was all kinds of dust and stuff under here. I think the dealership cleaned it a little bit because the owner told me it was all gunky and stuff under there. But again, like, you know, because the car sat in the port, it was so dirty everywhere. And the last thing you want is your brand new car that's expensive to have dirt all over it. So, you know, we just go the extra mile to fix that. And also, before I forget, there were a couple different weird spots on the car, but certainly the weirdest one was in the door jamb on the driver's side. Also, again, it's extremely hard to see that seam on the driver door, right? Because you probably can't see it. It's super hard to see it. But just about somewhere in here, there was a crazy water spot on both sides. It was like a big white salt spot. And it was just in the door jambs, and the consensus was because it sat in the port for so long, it was basically getting a lot of bad hard water spots, probably a little bit of salt water from the ocean mixing into it, and because it would drip down the door where the delivery wrap was, we had a white line all the way down into a white puddle right there. And I probably spent 4 hours, 3.5 hours between both sides, like total, that was the time I spent, to fix this spot. And now, I mean, there's no way you can see it. I think I still know where it is, but it would be so hard for me to show you this on camera where it was. We also put this Porsche script on. The customer bought the lettering, and then we had our PPF installer do it because he's better at dealing with decals and stickers and stuff like that. So we did put this this matte black vinyl sticker on there, which I think, if I do say so myself, we put on really, really good because that's like crazy even. It looks like it came from the factory. Also, remember guys, I do tint. We did not do tint on this car, but we do offer tint. And the last time our tint guy was here and did some tint stuff for me, it really impressed me. I mean, it was really, really good. I have tint on my car, and the tint that our installer does for me was way better than the tint that's on my car. Way better. And I'm not going to tell you who did my tint because they're nice people, and I'm not going to bash them. but they're not as good. The installer I use is like way better than the people that I used on my two cars. All right, so it's very important to note that this car sat in the port for 6 months. It was filthy. So I'm including this as interior. All of the, here, I'll even pop it for you guys. So in case people don't know, the releases for things that are there on a Porsche. So I'm gonna jump into the back real quick and show you guys. So all of these jams, dude, they were black. They were just covered in gunk and freaking filthy crap. So I spent a very long time cleaning all of these jams out, and even like on these like the black gas pistons, these things were not black when they came in. They were brown. They just had brown dirt all over them. It was like a funky brown crap all over it, including the outside. All of this got vacuumed. It was a little dusty. He had just put golf clubs in here, I think. So I mean, obviously that's nothing to write home about, just vacuuming out the car. But you know, we're gonna take care of these things for you. There was a sticker here that I removed that was from the manufacturer, and there were spots everywhere. I'm assuming it was from when they checked the car in, but there were spots all over the leather, and now the leather is just completely perfect. We cleaned all the leather and disinfected all the leather. Whether you guys like it or not, we still live in a COVID world where there are germs and people still get sick. So everything, I mean, there was multiple porters inside the car. The salesman was probably inside the car. I'm sure a tech was inside the car at some point, and then the owner of the car was in it. That's a lot of people inside of your car when it's brand new. So I disinfected everything to make sure the customer has a little bit of peace of mind knowing that at least now when it leaves here, it is completely clean. And I cleaned all the leather because, again, people were inside of it. And, you know, when people are inside of your car, I don't know about you, but I like my car to be very clean after that. So after a service or an oil change or anything, I clean my interior. So the inside of this car, although new, is now actually perfectly 100% new and ready for the customer, as if literally no one's ever been in it before. And all the surfaces are protected. So we have Alcantara, we have leather, and the only thing that's actually not protected is the carpets. We did not do fabric coatings on the carpets. That just wasn't really part of this detail. But this entire, also, you don't really need that on a GT4. That's way more for like a daily driver, like M5 kind of car. I would hope this owner's not like putting, you know, mocha lattes in here. But anyways, so the leather in the Alcantara is protected. The steering wheel's been protected. All the leather, everything you're going to touch, it's all protected. You can also see, like, you know, we do a pretty serious, it's hard to show you this, but we do a pretty serious windshield cleaning. There's no marks on there. But yeah, also take a peek inside here. It's a very, very cool interior. We have a very beautiful yellow stitching, which I am a huge fan of. I think this looks really, really good. And he's got the Sport Comp seats, which are like the carbon fiber backed seats, and these are really pretty. Gotta love a good looking seat. Also, to mention, the leather ceramic does help against some abrasion resistance. So he's already got the covers on there to help with, you know, not destroying it, but they also have abrasion resistance on them now on top of that because of the ceramic, which is very helpful on basically a racing seat. I think that sums up the inside, guys. So I think that actually sums up the entire detail and kind of what we did in the car. And I'm just going to show you guys some really cool cinematic shots because I know you guys love that. And I've had a couple comments saying that that's what you guys love on our channel. And I think that's what we're getting known for. So I'm going to give you the cinematic ending, and then that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. And if you guys have any questions, especially regarding new cars, new car details, new car PPF, or anything like that on your car that's coming, please shoot me a comment or message me on Instagram or email me. And you can always go to statusdetail.com and find all our contact info. So, all right, that's the end of the video. Please enjoy the B-roll stuff at the end of the cinematic stuff, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.